When I was 9, turning 10 in the early 90s, we had this opportunity to come to the US.
I guess you didn't speak English very well and zero, right?
People like my father that took that kind of chance. I explained to my American friends, I'm like, dude, this dude took 3 kids and a wife and jumped in the ocean and didn't know how to swim.
People watching us would be like, why are these like very, Kazakh looking guys with very Kazakh names are speaking in English in the first place?
I'm originally from Uzin, like Mangostar region. I joke that that's where all the troublemakers are from, right? That's where.
Do you feel more American now or still like strongly Kazakh, like, or somewhere in between?
My dad was like, when you step your foot through the front door of my house, it's Kazakhstan. Like, leave all your American stuff outside.
What does giving back, look like for you?
Giving back to me was ingrained from early childhood.
A lot of like articles, stories, posts basically link you to Elon Musk.
I believed in what this guy was doing, and I just became like a super fan. Dude, like some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life are these young Kazakh people. Kazakhstan'ın suday жаңағы.
Сіздің де Қазақстаныңыз судай.
Жарайды біздікі, yeah.
Thank you so much once again, man, for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time, knowing how busy you are. And I feel like before we get into your work and everything you're building and working on right now, we need to start at the very beginning, because like I feel like people watching us would be like, why are these like very Kazakh looking guys with very Kazakh names are speaking in English in the first place? Because Talgat and Anuar are very common names in Kazakhstan, so to speak. So let's start at the beginning. Tell us about yourself, about your background, and where were you born and how basically you ended up living in the US.
Yeah, I'm a lot older than I look. I think I'm maybe quite a bit older than you. I'm originally from Uzin, like Mangostar region. I joke that that's where all the troublemakers are from, right? That's where when interesting things start in our country, it seems to be the epicenter. But so my father was in oil and gas, hence like why we lived in that region and stuff. And then at some point, I don't remember how old I was, but we moved to Aktau. And then when I was 9, turning 10 in the early 90s, we had this opportunity to come to the US. It wasn't supposed to be like a permanent move or anything. It was the way we were told by my parents is it's like a 2-year, we're gonna go to the US. People do that nowadays, I feel like.
So
right?
your dad, like he came to the US like on a program or like on a business?
I don't know the exact details, but it was some sort of program, because
but it wasn't Bolashak, right?
No. This is way like I almost think we were like some of the first families that kind of did this kind of stuff, because I did the math recently. My dad was like 39 years old, so pretty young. How old are you?
I'm in my 30s. 30.
Okay, so like similar, like 3 kids. I'm the eldest. I'm 9. My brother Adilbek is like 6, 7, and then my sister and Kat I think was like 4 or 5.
Right.
And so we packed up our stuff and we traveled here through Moscow, and then from Moscow we somewhere in Europe, but then we ended up in Boston. Our first year we basically like studied English and went to school and all that kind of stuff in Boston.
So when you first arrived in the US, as you said, you studied English. I guess you didn't speak English very well, and zero, right? And
I remember the first word. I think I remember in Achtau, one of my friends, his sister was learning English in some sort of program, and I think the very first word I learned was bus or something, because I was like, oh, it's like head.
So what,
right? Like,
so what was that period like for you, like emotionally? Like let me put it this way: how did you survive and how did you adapt in school? Because not knowing English is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, at least I was very young, so I don't really remember a lot. But at a high level, you have a Chinese-looking. I mean, you can relate to this, right? Chinese-looking guy doesn't speak English. It seems like we're like a very easy target, right? And then the area of we lived in the nice part of Boston, kind of like downtown, but I went to some the schools were not in a great area for some reason, where they sent us through this program. A lot of like immigrants, like from Africa, basically, and me. So there's constantly, and the bad thing for those kids was they didn't know where we're from, right?
Right. I mean,
even at 9 years old, I've probably seen more fights than anybody here. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. In
Yeah,
Kazakhstan,
so like
everyone
nine,
knows
ten
how to.
years old. Yeah, so like for us, it's like normal everyday life. But yeah, I do remember like it was tough, dude. Like yeah, you don't speak anything. You're just kind of like in that plantain, like you're just an alien. You don't feel like you fit in. Yeah.
A lot of people watching us, some of them, wants to study or like work or eventually live in the US. And like some of them might be going through like whatever you were going at the time. So what would be your suggestion, for those kids who are going through the same situation right now?
First of all, I admire and I'm like very, like people like my father that took that kind of chance. I explained to my American friends, I'm like, dude, this dude took three kids and a wife and jumped in the ocean and didn't know how to swim and thought he would figure it out.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's how I view it, right? And in the early 90s, going to America, like this is why I tell my like American friends, I'm like, dude, we thought we were going to the moon. Like might as well have been the moon. This is
Right.
not like Skype and WhatsApp and FaceTime. Like this is maybe even before your time, but we had like calling cards or whatever. Like this was lot. You're not like when my family in Kazakhstan saw us off, it was almost like we'll see you guys, at some point. Like we may not be talking for a while. That's how it was. Um, like everything that I've done in my professional life, everything that I've got, like I really equate it to my father. Like I just don't think like I'm 42 now, so he was younger than me to take that kind of chance. Like sitting here right now, I have one kid who's 2.5. Like that is like insane to me to take that kind of risk, to have the courage to pursue something like that. And a little bit of the backstory that's interesting is my dad, when he was growing up, was a big Beatles fan. A little bit of the origin story of why like he had this like ambition to learn English and come to the US is like from what I hear from his friends, he grew out his hair and learned was like a lead guitar player or something, like played in a band and when he was like 18, 19. And people in those time periods, they would like just mimic whatever they heard.
Right.
So my dad told us that he had this like, ambition to learn English and it kind of was crazy. Like, I don't know, 20 years later, it kind of came full circle. Paul McCartney came to perform like in Austin or Houston. So I found out about it. I was doing petroleum engineering, making decent living or whatever. So I went and I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy like amazing tickets and then like surprise my family. We're gonna go. So it's kind of like the surreal, like you're watching Mr. Beetle, the Beatles. That's kind of what motivated my dad to kind of like have these dreams to come to the US and come here. Yeah. So it's kind of surreal to sit there with my family, staring. I have these moments a lot where I feel, I don't know if you have this in the US, like an out of body experience. Like we're not supposed to be here, right? Like you and I should be in like Almaty, Astana, somewhere like doing like there's like this traditional path, and we ended up somewhere just so different. So when I was younger, I remember when we were in Boston, and my dad said we're going to Texas. In my head, I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna ride a horse to school. It's gonna be really cool, right? Like John Wayne style. Like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be awesome.
But
Like I just
Anuarbek, do you feel more American now, or still like strongly Kazakh, like, or somewhere in between?
when I first like the first half of my life, I was like, if somebody called me American, I took offense to it. I was like, don't call me that. Like it was like fighting words, right?
Right.
And then the second half of my life, I kind of realized, it's like it's not bad to kind of have exposure to two different cultures. We, I do feel like I don't know if it's 50-50 or what the percentage is, but I feel like I hope we take the best of both cultures, kind of like now like I'm proud that like I live in America. I had a great upbringing here. I've got great friends and stuff. I'm still like, it's definitely my like dad's kind of like I'm very patriotic. Oh, you know what I mean? Like super Kazakh. My friends are all just kind of
And
yeah.
I, I,
That's
I
never
wanted I
changed.
wanted to share with our viewers how you and I got connected. And I think it was like back in
Mhm.
2022 or 2023. I don't remember.
Mhm.
And at the time, I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, and my unit, my apartment, basically not only my apartment, but like the entire building got flooded. And,
Yeah.
it flooded like from the top floor all the way down to the second floor. And uh,
Yeah.
I took like my phone and I recorded like a video saying like, here's my unit, and it's gone, like without even mentioning where I was. And you messaged me on Instagram saying like, hey, I saw your story about the flooding, and you were like, I'm not sure where you guys are, but I have an empty house in Austin, Texas, and you could stay in. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? And at the same time, I was like, that's such a Kazakh thing to do. So I guess my
Of course,
question
yeah.
is, do you
Yeah.
often help, strangers like that, or was it because you saw, I'm Kazakh, and where do you think that, instinct comes
I
from?
think I mean I that's how I was raised kind of, right? Like when guests come, you lay out the dastarkhan and you put the best of what you have out there. I feel like my that's like my upbringing. Even if we
But do you remember
you
that
ask.
moment when you texted me?
I do, yeah, yeah, I do. You know what's crazy? You ask me this question about like multicultural, like are you Kazakh, are you American?
Right.
My dad was like, when you step your foot through the front door of my house, it's Kazakhstan. Like leave all your American stuff outside. So culturally, everything like I basically grew up in Kazakhstan because when you came into our house, you were surprised when we first started chatting that I speak Kazakh fluently. Like we speak it at home
Yeah,
still. That
absolutely.
was like
I was surprised.
rule. Like there was no like, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've met so many people in the US, right?
Hmm.
Like both Kazakhs, Russians, and I mean, I would say 9 out of 10 people, they
Hmm.
either like deliberately don't speak Kazakh or they forgot the language, right?
Hmm.
And when you spoke Kazakh, I was like, what's that? Maybe we should have
Yeah,
like done this interview in Kazakh. But
yeah, yeah,
anyway,
yeah.
do
We
you
can.
remember anything about Kazakhstan, like from your childhood?
Yeah, yeah. I remember, and not only like when we moved, we used to go during the summers too. So I feel like I really did grow up in two different countries. So
Anything that
remember I told you
basically
there's three
like,
of us when we moved here.
okay.
In 1995, my baby sister Janat was actually born in the U.S. So that was the critical part for my dad is he did not want her to growing up without learning Kazakh. So the other three, the older siblings, we were like forced to speak Kazakh. And Janat actually speaks Kazakh better than we do because even though she was born in the U.S., she spent more time in Kazakhstan. Like every summer she'd go basically. Kazakhstan Suday, Janat'ın. Yeah.
Сіздің де қазақшаңыз сондай.
Жарайды біздікі, yeah.
I was born in Kazakhstan, right? I mean, I
Mhm.
mentioned that I was born in Kazakhstan, lived there for like about like 2 decades, 2+ decades or so. And
Yeah.
I still live, I mean, love the country deeply. I mean, I mean it. And I feel like when I moved to the US, I, often find myself like thinking, contemplating about like, how I can give back to Kazakhstan in so many different ways. Like, obviously you moved, in like in the US much earlier than I did. But do you have the same feelings? Like, if you do, like, what does giving back, look like for you?
Giving back to me was ingrained from early childhood. Uh, my father, like I think I understood even as a young kid, like we had more opportunities than like a typical person born in Akhta or Zhanaozen, right? Like we're in America, like probably some of the best education system and opportunities and whatever. My dad, when we were younger, basically explained to us, he's like, this isn't for free, kind of. You're not just here to like enjoy it. You're supposed to learn, get good practice and stuff. And the plan was always you're going back to Kazakhstan
Right.
to share, to contribute, to help elevate our people and our nation. Like when I say we're patriotic, like I joke with my American friends, in the US, it's like Republican and Democrat.
Right.
In the US, I'm like kind of like Democrat, I feel like, right? But I tell people it depends on your perspective. In Kazakhstan, I'm like redneck Republican, like super patriotic. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I do.
if
Yeah.
you don't like it, like get out. And like you're asking about language. Like for the first 20 years of my life, when I'd go to Kazakhstan without speaking Russian, in those early days, if you didn't speak Russian, it meant you weren't educated, right? Like you're like from
Yeah.
kolkhoz savkhoz.
Yeah.
I
No.
have the insane stories of like meeting, in my teens, like I'm trying to meet these girls in Almaty, and like because I don't speak Russian, they're all just like, oh,
Yeah.
like they like assume you're like uneducated and came from some village. And I had these like funny
Now,
situations.
I think now it has changed.
Well, dude, like, but it's flipped 180. Now
Right.
people like are like proud that I don't like. Я по-русски понимаю, но очень плохо говорю. Акцентты көрдің ғой?
I mean, you don't have
Russian
to.
accent. Мен түсінемін, мен орысша түсінемін. But like everybody, yeah, everyone's like now they're like proud. They're like, who needs Russian? Kazakh, English. That's all you need. You know what I mean? Like, So it's kind of like Kazakhstan changed, not me. I've always been this like I just speak Kazakh like at home and then English everywhere else. And Russian just fell by the wayside because we just never really used it.
Right. You know what's interesting, when I googled your name, I noticed that a lot of like articles, stories, posts basically link you to Elon Musk. And
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I found this video where like he's on stage and you're in the audience asking him about, hey, when you're gonna build Tesla factories or like superchargers, whatever, in Kazakhstan. Can
Yeah.
you like walk us through like that moment, what happened, and how did you end up in that event, and what basically
Man, the story with Elon started years before even that moment. I don't really talk about the backstory, but I used to. So my father does oil and gas. My major is petroleum engineering. I went to University of Texas at Austin,
Mhm.
did petroleum engineering. I have an MBA, so I don't zero technology background. There's no reason for me to know Elon Musk. But at one point, I think this was like 12, 13 years ago, when I was 28, I oversaw one of the largest oil and gas projects in the world is in Mozambique in East Africa. It was LNG, liquid natural gas.
Mhm.
And I really like technology. My younger brother Adilbek is actually like an electrical computer engineer. He's the smart one in the family. I'm the black sheep, like.
Okay.
And I don't even remember if it was his exposure, but I started trying to create a digital twin of the oil field. We didn't call it AI back then, right? It's like machine learning, big data. You get all these like sensors from the wells, you bring them onshore, and we ran them through engineering models and stuff and to predict like pipe failures and hydrates, which are like ice plugs. So I kind of started like dabbling elementary level with like this kind of stuff technology wise. And it was very well received by the CEO and the company. They're like, hey, this young guy. And the minority card. Our company got voted one of the best places to work in the nation. And me and my sister were on the front cover like this. Because my sister in God was also like worked at the same company. And, she worked in marketing. I was an engineer. So we hired this young executive, 32-year-old AI executive from the Bay Area to the board of directors of this like Fortune 500 company. And through this relationship, I kind of like this guy started, kind of mentoring me a bit, invite me to dinner, and I would share with him the project I was working on. He would help me. And one day he said, "Hey, you're good at this stuff. You should go meet my friend. He has an EV startup." So that was like I ran like that's my first connection. I don't even remember how long ago. It was like 10 years ago, maybe
So,
more.
so, so
I
you
went to
ended
the
up
Bay
meeting
Area.
him like in person and like chatting
I
about
met I met him in person, like very briefly, but I met him in person. I understood like Tesla and whatever. This was like very early days, and I was like, just like people get obsessed about Bitcoin and they just go crazy with it.
right.
For me, I saw this young entrepreneur. He sold PayPal. He was trying to build rockets to go to Mars. Electric vehicles that are amazing, and I was just like,
I feel like
immediately.
at the time, Musk and like his whole project was like a dark horse. Like no one. I mean, I don't want to say no one
Yeah.
believed in it, but
No, no, no. No
Musk.
one believed. Dude, when I started looking at Tesla, like from an investment standpoint, all that kind of stuff, Tesla, they said it was a fake company. Fake. Like it's not real. There's no factory. The Democrats are backing it because it's green. It's basically BS. Like it's not even real. So then the reason I had conviction is I went to Fremont, California. I toured the factory. I met Elon briefly, some of his like main, one of the young Elon's like head of growth in the early days was my friend Praveen. Praveen was 25 years old and in charge of growth of Tesla in the early days. He's like kind of like a younger brother now, a very close friend. I met these people that were just like 10 times smarter than me, just incredible. And I'm seeing this vision of what this guy's doing. I'm just kind of like, I joke that like I like met these people, I toured the factory, and then I sat in a Model S early days when they were first coming out with that car. And the way I explain to American people is like religious conversion, I'm like, oh my God, like I changed religions and it was like Tesla and Elon Musk. I believed in what this guy was doing and I just became like a super fan and very like my conviction. There's like, yeah, I've been like investing for over a decade. Part of like where I gained some of my philosophies on investing is sometimes you invest with your money on the future that you want. Like if you close your eyes, like I have a 2.5-year-old son, the future that I want my son to have in 20, 30 years, I should be investing my money and energy in what I'm trying to do to build that future.
Right.
Because when Elon was starting this stuff, 15, 20 years ago, the top companies in the world were not Google and Apple. It was like ExxonMobil, Chevron. You remember those days, right? It wasn't that long ago. The world was just a very different place. And it's flipped, and I'm like very excited about the future. And that's a big thing that Elon talks about is like you should wake up and be really genuinely excited about, where we're heading as a civilization. I don't remember where my initial kind of like connection was with some of the executives at Tesla, but so this guy Praveen was my friend, right? He ran growth.
Hmm.
Praveen knew me as like Tesla at one point had an owner referral program. So when I bought a Tesla Model S in the early days when they first came out, and Elon got this from PayPal. Like if Talhat bought a Tesla, you get like $1,000 off, and
Oh,
I get 1,000 Tesla bucks. So he used owners as like referral source, like free salespeople.
right.
I think I led the globe at one point. It was like 300 and something Teslas were sold with my link. So you have like Praveen basically explained to like I remember at one point I met JB Straubel, that's the co-founder of Tesla with Elon. Like Apple has Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. This is the Woz, the battery, the technical guy. So I get introduced. I don't remember. I think it was a semi roadster event. I get introduced to JB Straubel from Praveen. He gives me like a VIP bracelet. He's like, "Hey, you need to go up and go meet this guy wants to talk to you." And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, how does he know who I am? He's like, "I told him you're this crazy guy that like invested your life savings in Tesla. I started the Tesla Owners Club in Houston. Like my passion for Tesla knew no bounds. And on top of that, I'm like leading the world in these referrals or whatever. I actually won 4 vehicles for free from Tesla
Oh,
because of these referral programs. Yeah. 2 of them are the next generation Roadster whenever Elon decides to make that car.
that's crazy, man.
Yeah, was Elon and I had talked like one on one off like it was like multiple. I've met one on one with Elon before for several, talking about Kazakhstan and whatever. But the videos that you're talking about, they're 2 separate events.
Oh,
But the one where like Elon was like, "We're going to Kazakhstan," was the Model Y unveil. He was on stage. And again, because of my friend Praveen, they always like made me like a VIP. Like they would put me in the very front and whatever. So I'm standing there, and Elon is talking about global expansion of superchargers. At the time, they're expanding it. Though, like it's very early days of Tesla, so everybody's yelling where they're from, and I'm just like, dude, why not? I'll take a shot, right? Like this patriotism. So I yell out Kazakhstan, and Elon looks at me and he chuckles. There's a video you can like play it. Like he's like, oh,
I've
he's like,
seen,
I have
I've
some
seen it.
friends from Kazakhstan. Yeah, he's like, I have some friends from Kazakhstan, and I don't know what, like, if he was like on something, but he on stage was like, we're going to, he like mandated, we're going to Kazakhstan. And I'm standing there being like, oh my God, like, that's insane. Yeah. And then later that night, I'm talking to the executives, and they're all like, dude, like, I'm pretty sure Elon's serious. And I didn't know what to make of it. The next day, I get an email from my friend who's the head of growth. He's like, no, no, like, we want you to come with us. So then I ended up weeks later, like going to Kazakhstan. In several weeks, we installed superchargers in Astana and in Almaty as well. And we had like Tesla had like a grand, not plans, but they were very much like wanting to work with Kazakhstan on some really interesting projects and stuff. And we had meetings with like the prime minister and had some we couldn't like, Elon wanted us to kind of like stay under the radar, really. He didn't want us to make a big splash. But I remember having being in the
Anuarbek, let me cut
middle.
you off. But had you been to Kazakhstan before the Tesla thing, or
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I go to Kazakhstan all the time, like during the
oh,
summers and stuff. Yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah.
that's crazy, man.
I even when I graduated with a petroleum engineering degree in 2005, I went and I interned at Kazmunagaz for one summer in like Astana. Yeah, with no Russian.
No rush.
Somehow, Google Translate luckily came out like a year before that.
How did you feel about it? People were like picking on you, or
No, 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 but like just lots of funny stories. Like my parents, in Kazakhstan, we go home for lunch. My parents was like every day, and like it was like comic relief on Marbek's adventure at Kazmunagaz with no Russian, right? Like, I mean, like the manager of the department that I was in, what was it called? Охранный труда и окружающей среды. I think it's like EH&S, right?
I guess, yeah.
They're asking me to like something very simple. They're like, "Hey, can you set up this meeting?" It's something that should take 5 seconds. Since I don't speak Russian, before I call, I this is a true story, dude. I go online and I write out a paragraph in English and Google translate the Russian, and then I read the Russian when on the phone.
With an
Like, Здравствуйте, меня зовут Anuarbek Imanbaev, blah, blah, blah. Like, I'm sure it sounded robotic. And then one time, one of these funny stories is the secretary of one of the top executives at Kazakh thought I was pranking her.
oh my God, no.
So she was like, Молодой человек, blah, blah. I didn't even understand what she was saying. She's yelling at me and she hangs up the phone. And I'm sitting there like this is like day two of Kazakh and I'm like, I'm gonna get fired, like 100%, right? Even as an intern. So I go to the manager of the department and I explain the situation. And this guy is like a used to be Nurake. He was a world famous like Kazakh in Kazakhstan, he was like a big boxer, very patriotic guy. And he was just like, I'm gonna go talk to this lady. Who is she? Like
Oh,
this
really?
is Kazakhstan. He speaks Kazakh. Why? You know what I mean? Like he's getting mad at this person, and I'm like, Nurike, like I made the mistake. Let me go like talk to this lady. So I go and confront this person, and she's Kazakh, by the way, like just doesn't speak Kazakh, speaks Russian.
Option.
And she just starts when she sees me. I think she understood, like it made sense. She's oh, like legitimately, this kid is like serious. He moved from Kazakhstan. He was 9,
Right.
doesn't speak Russian like at all. You know?
So
Yeah.
what still surprises you about Kazakhs? And if you're being honest, what's one thing that you really love about us, about the country, culture, the people, etc. And maybe one thing that in your opinion, you think we could do
Dude,
better.
I've always, I don't know, like, I've always believed this. Like, I feel like we have some of the brightest young people on planet Earth. Like, I love like, Kazakhstan, like, compared to, the rest of the world, it's very multicultural. Like, I feel like people get along, like, compared to, my dad would always explain to me, he's like, you see Kazakhstan politics, geopolitics from very far away, right? The apple looks very red and just perfect. So to me, a lot of I still keep up with like my in Kazakhstan, like the kids that I went to first and second grade with in kindergarten. We have a WhatsApp group to this
Oh my
day.
God. Oh my God. Really?
Yeah, Azamat, Artur, yeah, Yiljas, like all these kids, I still talk. They call every time they get together in Akhtal over drinks. They fucking FaceTime me,
Oh my
and
God.
I joined. Even though I only went to like second, I left when I was in third grade. Like I
That's
was in Kazakh school. So whenever I talk to them, they're living inside the apple, right? So they see some of the worms and whatever. No one's perfect. No country is perfect, right? But to me, it's a little bit of a different perspective. I try to respect it because I think it's hard for me to speak to the conditions of the Kazakh people living in Kazakhstan, but I see the way everybody else views our country, and it's usually pretty positive. We're like peacemakers. We're like basically Switzerland of like Central Asia or whatever, right? Like we're good with everybody. The way we've survived is like, what's the? I told our general counsel Nazira this analogy, and she didn't like it too much. I forget. I think my dad or somebody was telling like when two camels rub together, like shivanuletita ortasında, like a
Oh
fly
yeah,
dies in the
yeah. I know what
middle.
you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
So in the geopolitics, you have like Russia to the north,
Superpower.
China, and
Yeah.
then this third camel, America, that doesn't even belong there, but it's putting its head in.
Right.
So we've survived somehow by keeping peace with everybody, like bringing in the oil and gas companies early on, denuclearizing Kazakhstan, like just having really good geopolitical, yeah, like within Kazakhstan, I think a lot of people can, and probably for the right reasons, have certain hesitations about government and corruption and whatever. But when you see how the rest of the world really is,
Right.
like I feel like Kazakhstan is in a really bright place. But again, like I'm speaking to it from like the apple is bright red from far away
Right.
perspective, right? Like and
Right.
a patriot.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. And as you said, we have like these superpower countries in the north and the like south, and we're somehow managing to survive. And I think it's really a big deal.
And
Um,
I'll,
no,
I'll I'll leave you with one thing about this question that you asked. What is it, like 20 million people in Kazakhstan, right? Like I really believe we have some of the brightest people on planet Earth. I'm comparing like I went to Israel like I went to go visit like Palestine. This is before all the conflict stuff, like went and like I mean, I've traveled all over the world. I've broken bread with people that you would expect to have a very different, point of view than I do, and all that kind of stuff. And like when I was in Israel, I try to understand like why are there so much like technology and the focus and like all these companies, dude. It's all like it's set up for it, right? We America spends whatever billions helping Israel with their military.
18.
All their young people train in the best technology possible,
Right.
right? In the military. They get out and then the government, still with America's money, they fund whatever dumb idea you have. So it's just like I will never believe that like, Israelis are smarter than Kazakhs. I don't think that's true. Like I've seen like I've dude, like some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life are these young Kazakh people.
Right.
I wish, like, I always kind of like, anytime I speak to government officials, I'm like, man, if we double down on our young generation, especially now, this AI inflection point, Kazakhstan has a chance to like, just, just take it to the next level, in
Absolutely.
my opinion.
Speaking of which, tell us about your project, Anuarbek. I know you're working on your startup called Naya, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
what is it? What kind of like
So
problem?
We're building an agentic AI that focuses on network and relationships. It's actually my 2.5-year-old. His name is Ayan. Naya is Ayan backwards. It doesn't mean anything.
That's
Yeah,
smart.
yeah. So I was just in the early days of it. I was just thinking, oh, people call their AIs like Siri, Alexa, and whatever. That's kind of the train of thought that I was going towards. So I've been thinking about this idea for a long time. A simple way to explain it is, like we all have the contacts app in our phone.
Right.
That's like from the dark ages. It's never changed. Like the icon looks the same or whatever. It's just like it's so like it's like DOS before Windows era. Like, but we always talk about like networking is everything, and now there's AI and there's compute and all this stuff. And I always had this like there's got to be a better way to approach this. And last year, I told you I have this relationship. I've been kind of like around the sphere of Elon Musk. So I became really good friends with the chief designer at SpaceX, Anthony Sims.
Mhm.
He was the first designer that Elon hired at SpaceX. He worked there for 12 years and we just became really good friends. Anthony would invite me to all the like when Trump came to the SpaceX launch or whatever. Do you remember like last year? I went and I hung out with Elon afterwards and all that, but all that was because of my connection to Anthony. Anthony was like he's like one of the most like, very famous, amazing designer. So I'm telling the story to Anthony about like this idea that I have, and he left SpaceX, and we like started this company together last year. So so Naya essentially like if you have the simple, I mean everybody can relate to it. Like it syncs with your contacts app,
Mhm.
and then the agentic AI goes out and takes like somebody's full name and mobile number and sometimes email, and it goes out and enriches online information. Imagine if AI went out and found everything. You said you Googled me. You don't need to Google me in Naya. Like you just looked at my profile. The profile picture comes in from LinkedIn. There's a summary of Anuarbek and everything is done. Even like whatever is public information, the AI processes. The other really cool thing that Naya does that's very unique, I think, is we while we're enriching that contact, like if I'm enriching Talhat, it'll go to your LinkedIn, it'll find your Instagram, it'll find your Twitter, all that stuff. And we start listening to changes that are happening. So you're kind of like keeping up with
So
so I don't have to
it's like a personal chief of staff, so to speak, right?
100%. It's funny that you say that. I'm a big like Formula One fan. I hosted one of the top executives at crypto.com. And when I explained that this dude is like losing his mind, he goes, I'm not big, I get it, I get it. I go, what? He goes, it's a chief of staff in your pocket.
Exactly. That's what it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it understands, it links to all the stuff. And then the listening piece is really interesting because, Talhat might post like, oh, I just got a promotion at this thing. You write an article about something, you do like a really good interview. So all that without me scouring the web, it just comes to me in a digestible manner. And then the last piece that's really intriguing and interesting about what we're doing with Naya, the agentic AI is, you know, you and I just met, right?
Mhm.
I can go research everything on you online. That'll be maybe 5% of who is Talgat. I know you went to NYU, you did your master's there, and like whatever, like maybe some of your background. But then let's say we become friends. We talk on the phone. We meet for dinner and whatever. I learn things about you that are not available online. I call that offline enrichment. Offline meaning there's nothing online about that information. So Naya, you plug that stuff into, you can use like the recording devices like Plod. We have a direct integration. So if, like this conversation, my Naya is recording it right now. When I finish, it's going to summarize and understand. Talhat and Anuarbek did a 1 hour interview about this. This is what I know about it from online. This is the offline enrichment. It's going to create it to build context. But then it networks and understands. Talhat mentioned a startup that he was working on. It had to be in like biotech space, for instance, right? There's a ton of people. I have 8,000 connections and contacts on my phone. I'm sure there's two or three people that would be great for you to have a conversation with. So the mission of the company, Naya, is actually community is happiness. It sounds fluffy, but what I mean by that is utilize AI, utilize technology, compute, and all that kind of stuff to do more of this, like IRL in real life.
Yeah, it
I
makes your
think
life easier.
agentic AI, yeah,
That's awesome, man. Well,
yeah.
I hope it becomes a huge success on Orbit. And
Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. I'm super excited. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you so much for sharing your story and being so honest with us. And I appreciate your time and your honesty.